Good evening and welcome to the Fantasy Formula One podcast. I'm your host, Paul, and today we're going to be going over the driver bio for Fernando Alonzo, who drives the number 14 car for Aston Martin. His initial value for the year was $7.9 million, which was, as we're about to discuss, very undervalued. And there's a lot of drama that went on with him changing teams and stuff like that. He thought he was going to retire, and then he switched teams, and it was a whole big thing. So he went on to Aston Martin, and they valued him at 7.9, and he increased 7.5 million over the course of the year. Finished the year at 15.4, and was the driver to have at the beginning and at the end of the season. They had a cool-off period. We'll get to that. But definitely one of the stars of the 2023 season. Kicking off with Bahrain, he qualified fifth, finished third on the podium, which is wonderful. Kicked off the season with 39 points at a $7.9 million, or was it 7.9 or 7.4, right? Yeah, 7.9. Kicked off with 39 points at a $7.9 million value, which is wonderful, right? At this point, everybody who didn't have him is hurrying up and trying to get him on their team. And if they weren't at the end of Bahrain, they definitely were at the end of Saudi Arabia. Qualified third, finished third, another 23 points. So, yeah, at this point, everyone's rushing to get him on their team, and the value for him is going up. His teammate, actually, we'll get to his teammate later, but also, by my account, Aston Martin Lance Stroll, so he crashed out. Okay, bad example on that race. Well, we'll go from there. So round 3, Australia, qualified fourth, finished third again. So for those of you playing along at home, first 3 races, he had 3 podiums. Granted, they were third places, but for a $7.9 million, supposedly a value driver, he climbed in and got 3 podiums in a row, 23 points, and at this point, everybody has Fernando Alonso on, and to some extent, Aston Martin as a constructor, because the constructor, we're not really talking about them right now, but the constructor at this point is getting double whatever he gets. So if you're looking for an inexpensive constructor, Aston Martin, at the beginning of 2023, Aston Martin was a constructor to go. Round number 4, Azerbaijan. Qualified 6th, finished 4th. Again, wonderful. With 27 fantasy points. Miami, round 5. Qualified 2nd, finished 3rd. Down took a little bit, fine, got 25 fantasy points. Round 6 didn't happen. Round 7, Monaco, qualified 2nd, finished 2nd. What? Got 27 fantasy points again. And the reason why these fantasy points aren't as many as some other player, like for example here, he in Monaco, in round number 7 in Monaco, Fernando Alonso, qualified 2nd, finished 2nd, got 27 points. Esteban Ocon, let me find him, qualified 4th, finished 3rd, got 32 points. Well, where's that delta? Well, he climbed 1 position, which got him 1 point, and there was, he did some passing. He had to have, but yeah, so doesn't necessarily mean just higher position means higher points. Not necessarily. You can get really solid points, and you don't have to be in the top 3. Round 8 in Spain, qualified 9th, finished 7th. Okay, not what we're used to. At this point, everyone's still all in on Fernando. Got 14 points. Fine. Round 8 in Canada, he's back. Qualified 3rd, finished 2nd. Boom, 27 points. Wonderful. Round 10 in Australia, qualified 7th, finished 5th. Again, not as impressive. Got 28 points. Probably did lots of passing. Great. And you're seeing this trend here, right? He came out in this Aston Martin. No one had faith in him, hence the 7.9 million at the beginning. His value is most likely skyrocketing. I didn't keep it. I crunched all these numbers after the season, so I didn't get race for race. In the 2024 season, I'm going to keep race to race so we can really watch all these trends. Round 11, Great Britain, qualified 9th, finished 7th. All right, fine, gets 12 points. Nothing bad. Then round 12, Hungary, qualified 8th, finished 9th. You're noticing this trend. Now he's out of that, 3-4, finishing on the podium. Now he's in the bottom of the top 10. Not quite what we're looking for, round 7. But at this point in the season, you're paying a lot more money for him. So when you were when you had him for 7.9, he was getting all the points. Now that he's close to doubled, or he's at least what, 10, 11, 12, 13 million dollars and percent of your budget, now he's starting to pull in these sevens, right? Round 13, qualified ninth, finished fifth. Okay, a little glimmer of hope. Only 2 fantasy points. Not quite sure again how all that worked out. Round 14 in the Netherlands, qualified 5, finished 2. Great. Starting to restore faith. 62 points. So much going on there. All right. 62 fantasy points. Ridiculous. Round 15 in Italy, Monza. Again, qualified 10th, finished 9th. Only got 5 points. So again, starting to cool off again. Round 16 in Singapore, qualified 7th, finished 15th. Got negative 1 points. And again, at this point, he's really expensive. So that's not bueno. Round 17 in Japan, qualified 10, finished 8th. All right, fine, 16 points. And then round 18 in Qatar, qualified 4th, finished 6th, which is great, 25 points. But at this point, he's at that 14 million. And also at this point, and this is what got me, if you've, on the previous podcast, we talked about Ferrari already, right? So they're going up and down. And Fernando Alonzo, he's no longer necessarily always hitting the top 3. Now it's like, well, is he in the bottom of the top 10? Is he on top of the top 10? What's going on? And Lando Norris, this race in Qatar, qualified 10th, finished 3rd, and got 41 points. And again, I haven't done the bio on Lando yet, but he's emerging as this inexpensive driver who's just getting all these points. So at least with me in this season, it was, well, when do I, at some point, I got rid of Fernando Alonso and got Lando Norris. And again, I stayed away from Ferrari as per previous conversations. And if it didn't have it then, it happened now. Round 19 in Texas, qualified 8th, finished 20th. He crashed out in lap 49, took negative 9 points, his first DNF of the season, and doesn't really come back from it. Round 20 in Mexico, qualified 16, finished 10, fine. That's weird. I need to double check this. I have him as a DNF here. So my guess is he 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Yeah. So my guess is that was just a typo on my part. DNF'd on Mexico, which is rough. Round number 21 in Brazil, qualified 12, finished 10. 39 points. Is he back? Doing great. In Las Vegas, qualified 10, finished 9. Gets 12 points. Vegas, again, was just a rough race for everybody. Then in Abu Dhabi, finishes it out. Qualifies 12, finished 12. Gets 16 points. So with the tale of Fernando Alonso and Aston Martin in the 2023 season was basically them finishing how they were expected to perform the entire season, right? The top of the bottom 10 maybe getting some points in, but he just came out of the gate crushing it with 3 podiums, getting in all the points, raised everybody's expectations, raised his value as far as we're concerned in Fantasy F1, raised his value a whole lot, and then started regressing towards the mean, right? I know there was some stuff about which evolution route they took with the car and things like that. So it wasn't him and his skills. They had implemented some changes to the car and they didn't work, and then they tried to get back on it, but at that point it was already done, and there's a lot of drama there. So let's go over his stats before I give you my summarization here, my final words. So he completed 22 rounds. He overtook 117 times, and a lot of that was lower than some of the other drivers, like Alex Albon, for example, and Esteban Ocon, because he was already starting towards the front of so many races. Average 5.3 overtakes per race. Cool. 9 podiums, right? 40% of the races he finished in the podiums, which is wonderful. Podium is top 3. Finished races in the top 10, 19. 19 out of the 22 race. He finished in the top 10, which is stellar, 86% of the time. He had 2 DNFs, bummer on that, but everybody usually gets 1. Very few drivers get 0. At some point, you're going to crash out. So, only 9% of the races did he get a DNF. Fine. He got a one fastest lap award, which is good. He got 2 driver of the days, which equates to points in fantasy. And the driver of the day is if you watch the F1 race on like the F1.com like website, because they live stream it and with really, really good coverage. I would say the best coverage, but towards the end they open up the voting polls, and you basically get to vote for which driver you want to get like driver of the day, and then they get extra fantasy points. So that's always fun to do. End of the year cost was 15.4. End of the year fantasy points was 403. His overall points per million was 1.16 on merit. I had 1.19, but that could just be their math is better than mine in that. But yeah, so next year in 2024, watch for Fernando Alonso and watch for Aston Martin. And seriously consider, depends on how they've evolved their car, but it seriously is worth considering having him be a main staple of one of your teams just based on his performance here, especially if he comes out of the gate at $7 million again. Absolutely. He's totally worth it at that point. Because remember, that 1.16 points per million is based on the 15.4 million at the end of the year. Based, if you had gotten him at 7 million and never traded him, then that points per million that he had would have been what, 2.25 or something, right? 2.3. It would have been so much more worth it too. So all around a very, very good driver. The big thing to look out for is is what kind of car they're driving, how Aston Martin is presenting themselves at the start of that season. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you next time. Cheers.